Hello there, Internet! I am joined by a friend today. So why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. Well, hey, everybody. My name is PJAU. I am an autistic model and actress from Seattle, Washington, and I'm really excited to be here today.
And PJ, what are your pronouns?
Yes, I go by she, her.
How do you identify?
I identify as hetero-romantic asexual, and I am also married to another hetero-romantic asexual.
Which, funnily enough, is what we're going to be talking about today.
Exactly. So I am ready.
Would you want to give a little background in your relationship, kind of history, story kind of thing?
Yeah. So a little bit about my husband and I. It's kind of funny, actually, because we met on Instagram over Coldplay. Because for those of you that follow my channel, I'm autistic, so my special interest is actually Coldplay, and my whole channel has a lot of Coldplay themes throughout it. And I have an Instagram account also associated with my channel. So I used to make these edits of Coldplay. I really don't anymore because I just don't have the time. But my husband found my Instagram account, then he found my YouTube channel, I think back in, I want to say 2016. But he didn't really let me know he existed till like 2017 or 2018. And by the time he did, we were friends for like 2-3 years before he confessed his feelings to me. And at the time I didn't know I was asexual. So I let him know. I'm like, hey, I'm actually asexual. Like, I hope that's okay. But I like you too. He's like, really? Like, I might be ace too. And I'm like, what? So I kind of sent him a YouTube video I made about asexuality, and he watched it and he's like, oh my gosh, this is me. Like, this is crazy. And when you're meeting an internet follower, you think that they'd be lying just to kind of get on your good side. It's happened before. So I was just kind of cautious about it. And I was like, well, are you really asexual? He's like, no, let me tell you why. And he started telling me his life story, started talking to me about his family and personal issues. I'm like, okay, I don't think someone who's like catfishing or just being kind of creepy would do that sort of thing. So I decided to trust him. We started long distance dating. He was in Los Angeles and I was here in Seattle, and we started long distance dating before we even met in person, which is crazy looking back on it, but it somehow worked. And then 7 months after we started, I met him in person for the first time in February 2020, just before the pandemic. And it was really crazy because turns out we got a lot better in real life than we did through text. And that whole week he was here, we did a bunch of stuff together, like going out to restaurants and whatnot. And I'm kind of glad that we did do that, because then the pandemic hit and then we weren't able to do that. And then impulsively, he was like, I'm going to move up to Washington State because I want to be with this person. And I felt the same way. We took that leap of faith, and sure enough, here we are.
What is your guys's like romantic or like intimate life like? Whatever you want to give me, I guess.
This is all from my perspective, because my husband, he doesn't like to talk about his point of view, but obviously from mine, it's totally fine. I like to say that, from my experience, it's been pretty nice because he is also sex repulsed, and it's great because we don't have to worry about, we basically don't have a sex life. People always ask us, they're like, well, how does that work? Like, why would you do that, as if it were a choice? But it's not. Like, I think the furthest that we ever go is like, I don't know. I really enjoy massages, especially like around my shoulders, but he doesn't. And that's totally okay. He'd rather give them to me, which is a win for me. But I think that's the furthest we go. And a typical day consists of cuddling, watching movies. And he's also introverted. He's actually neurotypical, but he doesn't like going out and going to parties or gatherings and whatnot. So our typical date is actually staying home and watching a movie. And that's pretty much all we do. Obviously, we kiss, we hold hands, hug. That's all the romantic stuff, basically everything except sex.
So a lot of people in this world are like, you can't live and not have sex. You can't love and not have sex. You can't be in a relationship and not have sex. Obviously, this is the kind of world that we live in, where we're like, well, actually, not really. You like, that's okay. I guess, how do you feel close to your partner? Because that is the argument that people have. They're like, well, you can't be close to them then. You can't be intimate with them. But closeness and intimacy doesn't just mean sex.
Exactly. And I remember when we were going through premarital counseling with my pastor, who, by the way, accepted us. I was like really surprised by that, because typically within like Christian religion, you know, for some reason they say it's not okay. But in this case, he was. But he kind of questioned it first. He's like, so you're getting married, but it's platonic? And I'm like, no, like literally we do everything except sex. And our idea of intimacy is just being close to each other. You know, we often have deep conversations of just life in general. Even after like so many years of knowing each other, there's still stuff that we're learning about each other, living together in person, what our habits are and whatnot. And that's really another intimate part of it, is people don't realize that being in a relationship is more than just physical like connection. It's also about emotional. And I think that's the reason why we were able to do long distance dating, is because neither of us were really looking for a physical relationship, and our communication was a strong point. Like there were times where we would call each other for like 4 hours straight and talk on the phone, and for some reason like his phone carrier would cut off after 4 hours, and then one of us would call back and be like, okay, so where were we again? And then we'd still talk for like more, like several hours at a time. So communication is important in any relationship, and I think it's more important than people realize.
I agree 100%. It's so hard for a lot of people who like don't closely follow like attraction and stuff like that to separate the romantic and the sexual attraction from each other. But I had a realization that whenever people are seeing other people, they get asked the question a lot like, well, is it love or is it lust? And it's like, in that situation, you are separating the two, or you're trying to separate the two in the best way that you know possible. I don't know, I think people understand it better than they think they do sometimes.
Yeah, and of course you have the people who cannot decipher between love and lust, and you cannot have to explain that romantic and sexual attraction are two different things. Mm-hmm. But absolutely, I think most people understand that romantic and sexual are definitely different, and in our relationship we strictly focus on the romantic part.
So then how do you guys deal with the stigma of like family, friends, or just like, you know, media, the world, you know, being like, this is what you're supposed to be doing? How do you deal with that?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously both of our families know that we're asexual, and, you know, since I have an online platform, everyone knows that we're asexual as well. And surprisingly, we've actually gotten a great response from it, because you have those people who initially come up to you and then you tell them you're ace, and they say, oh, well, you'll never find someone, like that's not possible. But then now I can say, oh, well, I am actually married to another asexual, and that's when they go silent and have nothing to say. So there's definitely some more positive things that come with being in an asexual relationship, because I have my husband now. But initially people would question, it was more so confusion than anything else. Like, oh, how does it work? Like, do you just not have sex? I guess the allosexuals still have that problem of comprehending that a relationship can exist without sex. And granted, it's never been seen before. I mean, or at least you don't see it very often, because I do know actually, I think 2 or 3 other married ace couples who are all across the spectrum. And it's great to see that, but you don't see that very often. Mm-hmm. And so it's still something that society is getting used to.
I think we just need more asexual representation in general. That's a whole other tangent.
Absolutely. Well, and things are looking up. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this, but I'm in an upcoming movie where all of the characters in the movie are on the autism spectrum, and all the actors are also autistic. And the director came up to me. He's like, how about some ace representation? Like, you can make your character ace. And I'm like, that's not a bad idea. Okay, I'm going to do it. So yay for autism and ace representation. I don't know where the character is going to go yet, but it's in the planning stages. I think in general, like BoJack Horseman had great representation, which, by the way, I actually auditioned for that role too, but didn't get it because I don't live in LA. Oh, well. But Echo Gillette did a wonderful job playing Maud, and other shows are getting more representation too. So it's great to see that.
Another reason that people think that you need sex in a loving relationship or marriage is for children, to start a family, to have children. So how do you feel about that situation?
It's a question that we actually get asked a lot because of our orientation. My husband and I do want kids, and before I met him, I always swore to myself that I would never have biological children. I just didn't think I would meet the person that would give me biological children. But now that I have my husband, I'm actually seriously considering it. And I think both of us agreed that we want to do a mix of both biological children and adopted children. We're still questioning whether or not we want to do foster care because, you know, it does have pros and cons. And so does adoption. I mean, adoption's expensive, but also having a kid is expensive. So we would love to do a combination of both. And if we did have biological children, it would be through, I guess, other means like IVF or IUI. Definitely not, you know, the normal way, I should say, because both of us are just too repulsed. I mean, yeah, we're not going to go there.
I think people forget that there are other ways to have children.
The aloes are at it again. What I say.
How dare they? Running amok.
Exactly.
In your personal experience, do you need to have sex in a relationship for it to be happy and healthy?
I think the answer is obvious here. Absolutely not. I mean, if you are sex repulsed and you're really looking for a partner who's also sex repulsed, trust me, they are out there. Or if you happen to meet an allosexual who has a really low sex drive, great, because it's definitely not required. As I think I should also say, it's more than just your sexuality. If you align sexually, that's great. If you meet another asexual person, that is also great. But it also comes down to other personal important things like religion or whether or not you have the same goals in life. Like I got super lucky with that because my husband and I have so much in common, down to the type of dog breeds we want for our house and what foods that we're allergic / intolerant to. Like I got super lucky with that, but that's also very important in a relationship. I mean, obviously not that close in proximity, if that makes sense, but having core things in common is also very important. There are so many ace couples out there who are also married or in a relationship. They're just not known. So for those of you looking for a relationship, there is hope. There is a lot of hope, more than you may realize.
I think that's a great place to close us out. Do you have anything else you would like to add before we end the video?
I think I've said it all, but yeah, I'm kind of like still in asexual groups, kind of lurking around, especially like the singles group, and looking at all the people who are still kind of looking for a relationship, kind of losing that hope. And I'm here to say, don't, because and the other thing is, I found my husband by total accident, and he just waltzed into my life, and here we are. So my advice is to actually not try. I know that sounds like really crappy advice, but don't go actively searching for someone or like spending all this time and effort into looking for someone when you find, there's that saying that you find love in unexpected places. And I think it's absolutely true. Sometimes it'll come right to you. So my advice would be to just kind of, be diligent in searching, but don't go over the top. Just kind of take life as it goes, one day at a time. I'm sure something will work out for you.
So all of your information will be in the doobly-doo, the description for everybody to see. And definitely go follow PJ on everything and anything. And we are actually going to do a video for her as well.
Make sure to check out my channel as well so you can watch our other video, and that link will also be in the description below.
Awesome. Well, that is it for now. We're gonna go film another video.
Yes.
And I will see you guys next time. Bye.